here, which is from Fiona. And Fiona says this: I am currently studying law at university, and I'm considering completing the LPC. You obviously know what that is. I have the slightest idea what the LPC is, but you obviously do. Once I have finished. My question is, what type of challenges have you faced as a Christian barrister? And what did you do to overcome these challenges? Okay. On my course, I've been told that a solicitor's duty is to manipulate the truth, which could mean being dishonest. As a Christian, I would really struggle with this, as I would want to stand for truth. Would you agree that we should be one of the greatest challenges, would you agree that this would be one of the greatest challenges that a Christian solicitor could face?
The LPC is to do the course to study to be a solicitor. So it's great for her that she's going to do that. There are specific challenges that you will come across, depending on which area of law you go on to, and again also what type of firm you go to work for. But generally, I think the challenges that do present themselves are often ones that produce the greatest victories. And my advice would be to really stick close to the Lord and to seek Him in every situation. For instance, if you are being asked to lie, if you are being asked to make information appear in a different way so that it slightly detracts from the truth, to really to seek the Lord and to pray for those people that you're working with, pray for those relationships. It's not uncommon for people that you're working with to maybe try and manipulate you or to try and dominate you. It's actually, in some respects, can be quite tough, but there are also great joys in that, you know, when you are standing up for truth and helping people to navigate your way through these difficult challenges of giving legal advice, that you're working within the law, but at the same time you're also speaking up for truth. It's really the Lord that guides us through them. And without going into specific scenarios of when those things can arise, I think the best thing that I can do right now is to just advise, you know, seek the Lord in everything, because if you are having a problem with a senior lawyer who's training you, who maybe wants you to present work in a time that you're just not able to do, and you have to bill for these hours as well, that can also be quite difficult, because you've got a conflict of interest. You want to please your boss, but at the same time you don't want to overcharge your client.
Yes, right.
And again, like, the Lord can steer you through that, how to build that relationship with the senior lawyer, and also how to conduct yourself properly so you're doing your work in an efficient manner.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, we did a program several weeks ago on business, and the person was there. It was a slightly different way. It was just in the business world, but he was making a presentation, and right at the last minute, his bosses said, I want you to change these figures and these figures in the presentation. And he did it at that point. But he went home and had a terrible time before the Lord over. And he went back in the next day and said, I will never do that again. Even if it means his job, I will never do that again. So it is possible. In every walk of life, we are going to get, because the world is basically built up on lies, isn't it? That's the way of the world. And so it is, but we do have to find the way of speaking the truth in a way that is helpful, rather than just, well, I'm going to stand against you. It's helpful, but it is possible to stand in those situations, but not easy, is it?
It isn't. And I think it's being salt and light in those areas, because we're wanting to be right with God, but we're also wanting to witness to the other people that we're working with. And one of the church leaders in a church that I go to used to be a barrister, and he gave a story. He was in an office, and someone picked up the phone for their boss, and their boss said, oh, could you tell them that I'm not here? And the person immediately turned around and said, no, because if I lie to them, it means I can lie to you, and you wouldn't want that. And I thought that's wonderful, because it's saying to that person, I'm not going to lie, but it also shows them the reasons why it's not good to lie, because it's not doing them any favours to advocate lying, because that person could lie to them in the end.
That's right.
But I think that it's the Lord that navigates us through these things, because it's difficult to foresee, you know, particular scenarios and how to deal with them. But if we're people of good standing, if we're people who are principled and we stand up for what we believe in and we don't waver from that, it means that it's set down a guideline to what we're going to do. It's firmly established in our minds. Am I a person that's going to lie? No. Then, you know, if that comes in, if that moral standing comes into conflict with something, the Lord will navigate us through it, because we will be unwavering in that.
It's very much part of life, isn't it? But it is making that decision beforehand. In other words, if I haven't decided that, as you say, I believe before God I cannot lie. And if I haven't decided that, I'm certainly going to be faced with the issue and probably fall. But if I've decided that before God, and of course committed the day to God, and that doesn't mean you've got to have a 3-hour prayer time before you, it may be because you got up late, you're dashing off on the train, it may be sitting on or standing on the crowded commuter train having a prayer, but you've committed the day to God. You've really positively brought him into it. Then it is, as you say, trusting him that he will give you the words to say, and he will give you the way through as you go through it.
Yes.
Yeah. Coming back to the whole area of prayer, it seems to me that we do need to encourage churches to get back to a weekly prayer time. We need to get them to be encouraged to get hold of your email or similar ones that summarize the week, that summarize the things that are affecting Christians in their area where they are. And initially praying about it, it was very interesting you said earlier on, of course, if you pray about it, you get passion for it. But it also seems to me, if you pray about it, you can also probably know better what to do. Because in some cases, it may be a public demonstration. In other cases, it may not be. And I think one of the things that we tend to do as Christians is always decide the same thing for everything. But if we're really seeking God, God gives that wisdom as to how we should actually act in this situation.
Yes, that's right. And also, he gives us revelation into a particular area. You know, some people may term that in a different way, insight or you know, knowledge. We start, because we're interested in the subject, whenever we see it, we'll probably pick up on it if it's on the news or if our friend's talking about it. You know, our ears, our minds and our hearts are alight to it. So if it's ever spoken of, we'll pick up on that. And we will become knowledgeable in that area. And that's why I'm not surprised when we start praying for something that God uses us, because, you know, we start picking up on things and a knowledge base is created. That means that, you know, it helps us to pray into even more. And also it helps us to do things about it, as you were saying.
It certainly homes in on what we were saying earlier, David, about the Lord being sovereign. And although people, and of course it's interesting, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this, Simone, but what is interesting, it is not necessarily that all of these people are directly against God. It's not, some of them might be, but what they are is they're looking at it purely from a human point of view. In other words, they haven't brought God into the situation. So certain things seem, from a human point of view, very good and very right, but we've got to bring it in from God's perspective, and of course one day God will judge on that basis, won't he?
Yes. And I think it's interesting, I've been reading what's it called, the 1 Year Bible, and so every morning I'm reading different passages and different,
my wife's got one of them.
I quite like them, they're good. And a recent psalm that I read was basically saying that, you know, people who, and I'm completely paraphrasing, but the essence of it is that people who do not seek the Lord are fools. And that the Lord is looking for people who are wise, people that seek him. And so that is the definition of wisdom, people who seek the Lord. And so where these people might not be going against the Lord and seeking to go against the Lord, the mere fact that they're not seeking him means that they're not using wisdom. And this, when I was thinking about coming here today, I read Proverbs 14:34, which says that righteousness exalts a nation, sin is a disgrace to its people. And we know that the wages of sin is death. And so if we do not have righteous leaders, that that can exalt our nation, we will be led into sin.
Yes.
And sin will ultimately lead to death,
Yes,
which is
yes.
exactly what this gentleman is
That's
talking
right, they were
about.
saying,
That